Hi! This time I wanted to give you a channel update. Just a few thoughts before the end of this year. I wanted to make this video a bit later in this month, but well, you never know how busy you're going to get during the festivities. So first, a channel update. I'm going to continue with my multi-part reviews. And many of you know that I have been reviewing this amazing setting, the Nightfell campaign setting for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. A lot of you know that I am not actually a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, but throughout the years I've been using the basic rules to test them. That is the document that you can download for free from the Wizards of the Coast website. And I was talking with my friend and martial arts student. He doesn't play role-playing games, but he finds the stories entertaining. That is the campaign setting, storylines and plot lines and all of that. And so he actually gave me, as you can see over there, he gave me this gift set that contains the 3 core books of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Terrible quality, by the way. You can see the reviews in Amazon and other places in the internet that yes, the quality is pretty bad. If you purchase the gift set, it's almost guaranteed that it's going to be one of the books or 2 of the books are going to be damaged. In my case, the monster manual and the player's handbook, they came with these like torn pages. I actually had to repair them, had to apply egg yolk. Many of you know that to repair the pages of a book, you can use a brush that you're not going to be using anymore, and you take a bit of egg yolk and you put it between the where the page has been ripped apart, and you let it dry, and it repairs somewhat decently. And I also painted over because it looked like when you rip out the superficial layer of the page, it looked like whitish, very ugly. It wasn't a big thing, but it was noticeable. So I painted over that and I applied a bit of a protective coat, and it looks decent. But yes, I actually wondered, like I said in the player's handbook and the monster manual, I wondered if it was a somewhat rare case, but I looked at the Amazon reviews. No, and it's quite the common thing because it's printed in China, of course. So yes, that's pretty disappointing. But now that I have the 3 core books, I think that I'll have a better appreciation of any material produced for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Now, when it comes to solo material or solo reviews that I am going to be working on, I'm going to continue with the Solo Adventuring Toolkit review. If you haven't seen that review, please check out the playlist in the description below. By the way, excuse me if there is some background noise, because I think that some neighbors are having a party. Maybe you won't hear it. Hopefully you won't hear it. Somewhat of a lively music. So when it comes to the solo material, I also, by request of some of my viewers, I am going to prepare 3 tutorials to show you how I step by step play a pre-generated adventure, and a pre-generated adventure using cutting up the different elements. That is, I'm going to play the pre-generated adventure as it is, and in another tutorial I am going to show you how you can take a pre-generated adventure and divide it by sections quite significantly, not just encounters. Take different elements and create random tables so that you can get an entirely new adventure with elements of that pre-generated module. I also want to show you a tutorial on how you can run a solo adventure from scratch. That is a dynamic adventure or dynamically generated adventure, where you are using tables to create the encounters, the scenes, anything related to the different plot lines. I am going to be using the Solo Adventuring Toolkit on its own so that you can see the potential or the power behind the Solo Adventuring Toolkit. And just to show you that with a single emulator or a simple set of tools, you don't need to use all of the tools contained in that toolkit. Just using the ones that you need, you can have a satisfactory solo experience. Now, I also wanted to talk about something that I have noticed throughout the years, a difference of opinions when it comes to what is actually a role playing game and what is simply storytelling, because I think there is somewhat of an ambiguity or a confusion. The name itself tells you everything that you need to know. Role playing game. It's a game where you play a role. So it's not that hard. But there are some people that try to push things towards the side of storytelling, almost completely towards storytelling, and I don't find that satisfactory. Maybe you enjoy, like I said, you're telling a story and you're saying that's a role playing game, but I still have my own opinion on what a role playing game is. Sometimes that opinion can be quite particular concerning the material that you use when you run an adventure. For example, there is one of the RPG luminaries, one of the old guard that is still alive with us today. Well, at least last time I checked, there have been many deaths this year because of you know what. But okay, this man in a magazine, he wrote an anecdote, something that he experienced when he was invited to a convention. I am not going to say who this person is, because it's not my intention to expose, like, oh, look at that guy, that he's supposed to be like one of the, well, not exactly founding fathers, but like the founding uncle of of role-playing games, and look how he ran that game so horribly. But I'm pretty sure that a lot of you will recognize who that person is when if you read that magazine. But he shared that story when he was invited to this gaming convention, and he kind of like, it seems like he was really busy, so he started to push it to the side, like, oh, I'll get to it later, or I'll prepare for the convention later. So he was asked to run this game at the convention, but he stalled it. He procrastinated so much that the big day came, and he was not prepared for it at all. So he went to the convention and he started to run things without no notes, no preparation. Now, that is completely viable, but when it comes to the game that he was running, if I'm not mistaken, it was Dungeons and Dragons. I actually prefer it when the dungeon master has his maps or some notes at the very least. Some basic preparation perhaps, but he was just improvising things in the most horrible way possible, in my opinion. You know why? He basically presented himself to the table, and he started to, well, he set up this simple scene, this starting point for the adventure. And then he started asking around the table, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? He started asking questions. Now, maybe some that are new to role-playing games do not know why asking questions like that, sometimes it really pulls you out of the experience, and it can get things a bit messy or a bit clumsy. Because, for example, maybe I'm the dungeon master, game master, and I keep asking, what do you do? And so the player gets into this mindset of, can I walk across that bridge? And then I am going to ask, how are you going to walk across that bridge? And then he says, well, can I cast a spell to get across that bridge to keep myself safe? And then, what spell are you going to cast? Can I cast Featherfall just to be certain? And you see, so you waste so many time asking those questions. I think it's great to ask questions when it comes to, if you're not certain about a particular rule, because you could say something like, I want to cast Featherfall upon myself, and I'm going to cross the bridge. But maybe you don't remember the exact, maybe it's a player that doesn't own the player's handbook, and he asks the game master, the dungeon master, so how does the spell feather fall work? And maybe, like I said, it's his first time, or it could be any reason. And you could tell him, oh, it works like this, and he goes like, yes, I'm going to do it. So it's better if you keep questions to a minimum and you handle things through affirmations, describing your actions, narrating what you are going to attempt, and then the game master tells you what happens. And within reason, of course. I remember the introductions to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the old box set that had this CD, and one of the players, because the CD is basically teaching you how to play the game, and one of the players in the CD said something like, okay, I walk to that precipice and I float gently to the ground, and the game master is like, no, you're going to get splattered, you need, because he wasn't using a spell, or maybe it would be better to descend using a rope. So it has to do with that. So I read this pretty horrible session, in my opinion, in which the game master was constantly, what do you do, what do you do, what do you do, what do you do? And then at the end of the session, he basically lifted his game master screen, dungeon master screen, and then the players saw that he had nothing prepared. And as he describes it, maybe it's a case of how he looks at things and not in the way that the players actually perceived the incident, or however you want to call it. He said, oh, and they were all just amazed on how I ran that adventure without no preparation at all. But maybe some of the players were like, you didn't prepare anything at all for this adventure. so like I said, I am not against improvised adventures, but I think that a modicum of preparation, or at the very least, if you don't like to prepare, if you keep some notes during the course of the adventure, what happens, I think that's preferable. So yes, I think when it comes to storytelling and role-playing games, the difference is quite obvious. In a game, you still have those rules, even though there is the role-play aspect. You can bend the rules or modify them or apply them to each situation, because a role-playing game has that power, that strength, that it's supposed to be a simulation, even if it's a fictional simulation. And if you want to handle it a bit more loose or a bit more tight concerning the rules, you still have those guidelines. But if you're just telling this story and you're just like hand waving the outcome, or making stuff up as you go, that, oh, I want to kill that enemy, oh, you killed it, you win, there is no excitement. And I think the randomness of using dice or cards, or even if you have like a benchmark, at the very least some sort of benchmark, some way to measure success, like in the case of the Stalker role-playing game, at the very least you have that to determine the outcomes of different actions. Because just like in real life, there are some things that are just too simple, like writing something, or maybe somebody passes a jacket or something to you and you catch it. You do not need to, if it was a role-playing game, you wouldn't need to roll to determine if you are successful at writing or at catching something really up close that is very easy to catch. But many actions related to physical activity, to the professional environment, those there could be many challenges, and then it's when you need to roll. So it's just my opinion, my take on that. So I forgot to mention, I hope that next year I will get to review some role-playing games from other languages, more than anything Spanish, because, well, they're mostly going to be role-playing games from Spain. I think there are some pretty amazing role-playing games designed or written by people from Spain. And even if you don't want to learn Spanish, I think you may find it entertaining or curious to see all of those amazing role-playing games. A lot of you are already familiar with the more famous ones, like Anima Beyond Fantasy or Aquelarre, but there are some obscure ones. There's actually one, and I want to keep things as a surprise. There is one where it's an apocalyptic scenario with angels and demons, but the main characters are basically people that suddenly awakened to having these really cool powers, but the setting is still quite bleak. The graphic style, it kind of looks like a combination, the illustrations, like Cult Divinity Lust and Final Fantasy. If you were to combine Cult Divinity Lust with Final Fantasy, you have that sort of style. And I think that's an amazing role playing game. I will see if I can review that one because I have many things that I want to review, of course. Another one that I want to talk about is a Spanish game where you're basically playing as the mythos cultists. Instead of being the investigators, you are basically, and not necessarily a cultist. They give you they give you the name of cultist and cult just to fit within the stereotype of the Lovecraftian mythos. But you're basically like a sorcerer. You don't even need to worship Cthulhu or Azathoth or any of those. You're basically wrestling their power. You're penetrating to the pool of the power of Cthulhu, Azathoth, Nyarlathotep, all of those. You pull that power and you use it to your benefit. So you have these groups formed by the player characters, and they are not exactly, well, I guess you could be the good guys, but at most you would be like anti-heroes. But I find the concept quite fascinating. There's also a Spanish game where you play, it's basically Sumerian Conan. If Conan existed in Sumeria, that's basically it. But there is an aspect of tyranny, like these unworthy individuals enslaving everyone. So I'm really looking forward to see if I get the chance to review those role-playing games because I think they are quite exciting. And just some final thoughts before this video. Before this video ends, don't fall into trickery and deceit and division. Current times have been very chaotic. If you are someone that you simply don't trust what the mainstream is telling you, and you look for information yourself, you will see that this year has been quite deadly, but not because of the publicly accepted reason, but because of something else. So be careful with what you put into your body. And there is so much division, like I told you. This is a time, I think, where we should be working together, regardless of race, because good and evil comes in all sorts of colors and shapes. And they want to pull you into this political leaning or that political leaning, this political party. They want to pull you towards this religion. They want to trick you. They portray something as if it is science, but it is actually religion, because once you carry out your own experiments, you start to see that it's all a big lie. And like I said, just look at the results. Take a look at those that take this and they are constantly sick. Those people that are constantly going to that place. I'm not going to say it to see if I can trick the algorithm. When you go to that place where you're supposed to be going if you get sick, the place that you have been programmed to go when you get sick, those people are constantly getting sick. They're usually overweight or skinny fat. Their hair falls off. They need glasses. They age so fast. They look like 20 or 30 years older. And they tell you so many lies about the things that you should be eating. There are so many toxic things that once you stop eating them, you become healthier, stronger. For example, coffee is so bad when it comes to the digestive system, and when it comes to there are a lot of people that have suffered heart attacks. You can do your own research. Coffee is actually used as a pesticide. Chocolate is also pretty bad when it comes to the absorption of nutrients and vitamins. And just look at those people that keep eating chocolate, keep drinking coffee, and they look hideous, horrible. Like I said, they have no hair, they look so old, they're so obese, and they have mental problems as well. Depression, and they're always angry or sad. So really take care of yourself. look for the more natural things. Nature has everything that we need. You can inform yourself on how to use those things. I am 39 years old, and I look at those people that are 10 or even 20 years younger than me, and they look so diseased. There's no other way to put it. So definitely look after yourself. The knowledge is out there, and it's quite inexpensive. It's crazy inexpensive. And just look at the language of nature. For example, papaya. A lot of you know papaya, right? If you cut open the papaya, you can see the seeds. You can see how there are like little worms, like pulpy, juicy worms holding onto the seeds. Papaya seeds are amazing to treat any sort of worm-related infection. And then nuts, the typical pecan nut. You see how it has this, or chestnut as well. You see how it has this shape like the brain, like both hemispheres, and it's great for the brain. If you cut a carrot and you see the slice, you see that it looks kind of like an eye, and it's good for the eye. The tomato has different chambers, and like the heart, like 4 chambers in total, and it's good for the heart. So you can understand that language. You start to read into those things, you will find many beneficial things from nature. So I just wanted to tell you this because it's better if someone gave you the information, instead of just being sorry that, oh, nobody told me. I just want to put that out there because, like I said, there have been many deaths recently, and all of those deaths have to do with putting bad things into your body and going to those places instead of finding independent clinics or knowledge by yourself. So thank you for watching this video. I wish you the best when it comes to these troubling times. I hope that you stay happy and healthy. Yes, and remember that if you want to support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Thank you so much to all of you and to those that have been sending Drive-Thru RPG gift certificates. I hope I can get to review those Spanish games because they are amazing. But in the meantime, I'm going to finish my current reviews, and I'm going to work on my solo material as well. Once again, thank you, and see you later.